Hi everybody, my name is Tommy, and I sing bass with Luke's. And today I've been asked to take a look at Good Night Dear Heart, Dan Forrest's setting of it, and basically put it through the examination that I would put it through if I had to prepare it for a pro gig. Um, and one of the first things when I'm going to be looking for when I'm looking at any piece, and this piece specifically, is going to be the dynamics, right? Whether the range is huge or whether it's the same dynamic for the whole thing. And in this case, the dynamics are fairly straightforward, right? You have, I think the highest it's going to go is a mezzo forte, and the lowest is pianissimo, right? So it's going to be kind of a sweeter piece, a little bit more tender. And then you're going to want to look through the piece more closely, right, and take a look at, he has written in every single phrase, he has these hairpins, right? It's going to be crescendoing into the peak of the phrase and then decrescendoing back. And he does that for basically every single phrase throughout the entire piece. The only exception in what's written is starting at measure 35, the section with the oohs. However, he has written espressivo simile, which basically is expressive like before. So what I would do is go in and write in the dynamics again, right? Write in that crescendo, write in that decrescendo. And then you can see measure, what is that, 41, 2, 3, 43. It's different than what was before. It's the same chords, minus the descant on top. However, he has written the crescendo all the way up to mezzo forte, the highest dynamic in the piece. So you're going to really want to mark those dynamic highs and lows, right? Circle them 2 or 3 times, and really mark in anywhere that the composer hasn't written in those dynamics. Then I would take a look at the text, right? And the text for this is fairly straightforward. It's only a couple of lines. And you're basically, one of the things that I do, at least think about, is imagine that you're reading this piece, this text, to like a 5-year-old or a kindergarten class or something. And you're going to be really enunciating every single word and every single consonant. You're going to be really gross about it, like warm summer sun. And the amount of effort that you're putting into those consonants when you're saying that is going to be even less than the amount that you have to put into it when you're singing. People don't realize, but the amount of effort, the amount of air that you have to put into consonants, it should be higher than the amount of air you're putting into vowels, right? Singing a vowel for 10 seconds is going to be easier than having to sing a ton of words in that same 10 seconds. So really put a lot of energy into every single vowel you have, the suns, the shines, and all the Ks. And just really energize every consonant that you have. The phrase "Good night, dear heart," right? It's where it gets its name, and how you're going to be singing that vowel "good," right? Because if you go around saying good night," you're going to sound like you have a Swedish accent or something, like "good night," okay, good night. You're going to want to say "good night," and you're going to want to sing "good night." Right? So you have good night, not good night. And a way that you can prepare that is starting with that ooh, right? The space really tall in the back, and ooh, and then you just want to relax the lips and unround them. So you go ooh. So everything is the same in the back, except now you just have a bit more relaxed in the front. So it's almost easier to sing than an ooh vowel. Then we're going to be looking at the breaths and the phrasing of each, right? So Mr. Napoli's done a fantastic job of marking in exactly where he wants you to breathe throughout this whole piece. Unfortunately, that has set you up for some very long phrases, right? The first phrase of the entire piece, if you take it at quarter equals 60 or 70, is going to be about 16 seconds long. So you're going to be stagger breathing right from the very beginning. And, stagger breathing 101, you're going to want to decrescendo as you're going to take your breath, and then crescendo back in, so it's like you're fading out, fading in, so it's supposed to go unnoticed. And one kind of rule that I stand by when it comes to stagger breathing, especially when you can't coordinate it, when you're just going to be stagger breathing and not talking to the other people around it, is to specifically breathe before or after where you think most people will breathe. So with this first phrase, for example, warm summer sun, shine kindly here, most people are going to breathe right in between sun and shine. They're going to go, warm summer sun, shine, right? And so what you're going to want to do is either breathe on that second quarter note of sun, or if you can really tank it up, get past it, go into shine, and then breathe somewhere in shine. So always try to be avoiding the spots where you think most people will breathe, and try and be that bigger person. Try and power through it and carry the rest of your choir. So then, let's see. Well, that's the stagger breathing, right? And for the rest of it, a lot of the times he has these eighth note breaths, right? So for example, in measure 12 on the word light, light, good night. So that's not a lot of time to take in air. So what you're really going to want to do is you're going to want to keep that consonant energized, that T, light, good night, right? And so if you keep that energized, then your abs are going to be ready to take in that full breath in that eighth note. And so you're going to be able to energize it, you're going to be able to bounce right back into it. And then it's kind of funny, but I think the last thing that I would think about when preparing a piece on a somewhat short notice, right, would be the tone and the placement for everything. Doing a quick skim through of it, the range of this piece is incredibly tame for the basses. You have only up to a G sharp, which I don't think anybody would ever consider a high note, going down to an F sharp, right, which can be fairly low, especially for those of you who are baritones and have to sing bass 2, or in this case, just bass, right, because it's 4-part. The high notes, you don't have to worry about, right? Those are going to come very naturally as long as you stick to the vowel. For that first phrase, son, a nice ah vowel. And then for those low notes, right, most of the time whenever you sing them, you're going to be stepping down to them, right? It's going to be warm summer sunshine kindly here, and then warm southern wind blows softly here. So it's always going to sink down to it. And what you just want to do is you just want to focus on the vowels, focus on your breath, and just let it be whatever dynamic it's going to be, right? Because if you try to force something, if you try to make it louder than it can be, it's going to push you out of pitch. It's going to make the tone really wonky. The vowel's going to be off. Just let it be whatever dynamic it's going to be, and make sure it's nice and in tune. Because if it's in tune, then it's going to be heard no matter what. And then I think there was one other spot in here. There it is. So at measure 19, right? 18 and 19. The starting of the next warm summer, and the basses have warm summer, warm sun. So this is the kind of jump that I was talking about. You're not going to be able to step down to this one. So you want to keep that space when you're climbing up, warm summer, and then keep it lifted up in here, and then just let that G sharp be whatever it's going to be, just warm sun. As long as that's in tune, it's going to be great. So those are just a couple of tips and tricks you can do preparing this piece for the virtual choir, or preparing any piece that you sing for the rest of your careers, those of you who will be music majors. Alrighty, thank you so much. Glad to do it for you, and looking forward to hearing the virtual choir.